From the studios of KENW on the campus of Eastern New Mexico University, it's You Should Know, featuring the people and events of Eastern New Mexico and West Texas.
Welcome to You Should Know. I'm your host, Evelyn Ledbetter, and today I have the pleasure of Dr. Stephanie Walker from New Mexico State University as our guest. Stephanie, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you, Evelyn. It's a pleasure to be here.
Oh, we go back quite a few years, so it's always a pleasure to visit. I mean, green chili, who can go wrong with that?
That's right. Certainly one of my favorite topics to discuss.
Well, just give us a little bit of background about yourself, whether it's professional or personal, whatever you'd like to share.
Okay, well, certainly. So I serve as the Extension Vegetable Specialist for New Mexico. I've had this job or served in this capacity since 2004. Before I went back to graduate school, I actually worked in industry. So I actually worked at the original old El Paso plant, and that's really where I developed my love of chili peppers. So I had my degree in biology, worked for 10 years in industry, and just had a real strong desire to go back and do graduate work in chili peppers. So that's what I did. And I've been at New Mexico State University ever since.
Are you were you born in New Mexico?
Not quite. I feel very much in New Mexico
Right.
now, but I was actually born in Pennsylvania. Yes, we moved right when I was starting middle school to Las Cruces from Pennsylvania with a few years in Montreal. So I definitely did not know chili peppers in my youth. I learned it when I moved to New
Well, you
Mexico.
landed in a beautiful place in New Mexico.
Well,
So sunrises and sunsets in Las Cruces are hard to beat.
it is gorgeous,
And the
yes.
heart of Chile. So, and then your master's was in
Horticulture,
horticulture,
yes.
and then your PhD.
In agronomy,
Okay.
yes.
And both of those, did you get those at New Mexico
Yes,
State?
all three of my
All three.
degrees were from New Mexico State University, so I consider myself an Aggie
You
through
are.
and through.
You are. For sure, for sure. Okay. Well, what drew you to study in Chile?
Yeah, so I actually got my undergrad degree in biology, especially specializing in microbiology. And with that degree, they hired me as a quality control supervisor at the old El Paso plant. It was known as Mountain Pass Canning. And, I watched, we were the largest packer of chili back in those days. The plant's been since closed, but I watched tons and tons of chili go over the processing bells, the inspection tables. I'd always been interested in
Mhm.
genetics, and I really thought, you know what? I bet I can work on the genetics of these chili varieties we're running to make them better, improve their quality. So with that, I applied to graduate school, and Dr. Paul Boslin, the breeder at the time, accepted me. He was impressed with all the microbiology classes I'd taken. So,
Oh,
yeah, this will be great. We'll put you on breeding for disease resistance. So, my master's involved working on disease resistance for Phytophthora capsicum or chili wilt.
mhm.
And with that, I then became a technician at the university. And then I was hired in the extension vegetable specialist position. And I did my own PhD, which was on chili mechanization.
Which is getting to a point that they could be harvested
Exactly.
mechanically versus by hand.
Exactly. Even way back in my mountain pass days, it was really clear to me that this labor-intensive
Right.
crop was going to run into problems because labor was becoming increasingly hard to get.
Mhm.
The harvest window, especially for green chili, is relatively narrow, and you need the people out there harvesting the crop when it's ready, or else it's going to turn red, and you've lost the profitability of
Sure.
that field that way.
Right. And when you have employees that you need them for a couple of months, that's really tough
Yes.
to bring in those folks to do that.
Yeah, and for a long time, growers you wouldn't go in the guest worker program just because with that you really need to guarantee employment for a
Mhm.
very long period of
Right.
time. And the harvest window is fairly short for green chili.
Well, can you just I know New Mexico State, the history of the chili plant. Can you talk a little bit about how that came to be that they became the premier research place for chili?
Absolutely. Well, so chili was actually introduced into this part of the world more than 400 years ago. So we don't know if it was the indigenous tribes that brought seed up from South America, is where
Mhm.
chili originated, or if the Spanish we know, the Spanish explorers did bring seed because they have written records. So there were pockets of these wild landrace chilies throughout New Mexico. But when the New Mexico School of Agriculture and Mechanical Arts, that's now New Mexico
Mhm.
State University, was founded, Fabian Garcia was in the very first graduating class and became the first head of the Ag Science Center, the very first Ag Science Center there in New Mexico, located in Las Cruces. And he saw these diverse land races being grown. And he really thought, you know what, if we would, through selective breeding, make these more predictable, larger fruit, smoother fruit for peeling, maybe reduce the heat a little bit
Mhm.
to appeal to a wider range of
Right.
people, we might really have a product that would take off here. So Fabian Garcia, through the very first breeding efforts of New Mexico Chile, developed the variety New Mexico number 9, and it was the very first New Mexico pod type chili. And since his time, this was in 1913,
Wow.
we've had chili breeders working at New Mexico State University continually ever since. And so from New Mexico number 9, many other varieties with different heat levels, different quality characteristics have also been released.
So this guy just had it going on. He found a crop that people just love.
He sure did, and through his work, then that spurred on processing plants. So we had processors come in, we had more farmers growing chili, people were discovering it, learning to love it, and it just really got this, very firm base of, New Mexico chili
This little
here.
niche, and I thought it was interesting, you shared with me that all of the varieties developed at New Mexico State, they name those with N-U-M-E-X,
Yes,
Numex?
yes, so capital N-U, capital M-E-X. Anytime you see that in a variety, it means that it was released from a breeding program at New Mexico State University. So many of them are chili varieties, but we also have onion varieties, alfalfa varieties, cotton. We have many different breeding programs at New Mexico State University.
I'm sure over the years, there's probably countless varieties that have been developed that were maybe not successful. I mean, any idea how many over the year
For
for
chili?
chili, how many have been developed?
Oh gosh, so hundreds,
Yeah, that's what I
probably,
was thinking.
and I think you can actually if you go online to the extension publication site, we actually have an extension publication that lists the different New Mexico chili varieties, New Mex chili varieties that have been released, and many of them are ornamentals. So they were developed for their beauty, not their
Right.
flavor or taste. Then we have a few commercial varieties that have been quite successful, but they're all listed in here, as well as the heat levels except for the ornamentals, which we're actually working on getting the heat levels for the ornamentals now. Even though they're not necessarily tasty to eat, people still wanna know how hot they are, and
That's funny.
most of them are hot.
That's funny. Well, and the thing is, when you tend to eat a bland diet, anything spicy and flavorful, I always wonder if that's what it was. New Mexico has had so many pinto beans and things like that. Maybe they needed the chili to add some flavor and
Uh,
spice them up.
I would absolutely agree. I don't like to have pinto beans without chili.
Right, right. Yeah, that's me. I always, when I fix them, it's always with chili powder or something in them. So,
Yes.
and so you have to feel like that the chili is just part of our culture.
Yes, oh yeah, and so, like I said, it's been grown here for hundreds of years, and different communities really embrace their particular varieties.
Hmm.
In southern New Mexico, when Fabian Garcia released New Mexico number 9, it really started that southern New Mexico type chili culture that the state is famous for now.
And what makes the difference? I've had a relative that wanted us to send chili seed to California, and they didn't taste the same. What makes a New Mexico chili different than the ones grown in other places?
Yeah, so certainly, the genetics does count. So we've had all this breeding work, getting the genetics in. But yeah, many people have had that same experience
Hmm.
where you take something, if you grow it here in New Mexico and Portales, it tastes great, and then it's a bit bland somewhere else. That's because the heat, the capsaicin
Hmm.
chemicals that impart heat to chili peppers are increased in stress plants. So it's a metabolite that the plant makes probably to keep mammals from, preying on them and eating the fruit, because birds don't taste the heat, and initially birds would spread the seed because they
Okay,
would eat the little tiny bird peppers, but this capsaicin, we believe, was developed so that mammals wouldn't prey on it. But when chili peppers are stressed, whether it's drought stress, heat stress, poor soil
right.
conditions, it causes the plants to produce more of the capsaicins. So, as vegetable specialists, I do a lot of vegetable training, and I always talk about the challenging conditions we have here in New Mexico. We have hot
Right.
days, we have light intensity, we have wind, we have, pests and disease pressures, and those can be tough on a lot of vegetables, but on chili peppers that have really been bred for this part of the world, those increased stresses, bring on the production of the capsaicins, the flavor compounds, the metabolites, and the stress makes them taste delicious.
There's always competition, and the chili have all along that Rio Grande. I mean, it's not it moved right from the Las Cruces area. All the like you have chili grown at Chimayo and
Mhm.
Limitar and Santa Fe areas. I'm sure that river had a big part to do with that, the water. But can you taste the difference of chilies grown in different regions of New Mexico?
So the land-raised chilies like Chimayo are quite distinct from the New Mexico type that we mainly grow in the middle part of the state and farther south. So Chimayo chilies and many of these land races in northern New Mexico are very genetically distinct from our New Mexico varieties. In fact, we did a lot of research with them, and there's 6 naturally occurring capsaicin compounds, and each is gonna give you a different mouth feel when you eat
Hmm.
that chili, and we found it really interesting. So if you test in New Mexico, a New Mex, say Big Jim, we'll get like twice the amount of capsaicin as dihydrocapsaicin. In the Chimayo, we were getting twice as much dihydro as capsaicin. So very unique complements of the flavor chemicals in the chili.
So there really is a difference
Yeah.
of that taste.
There absolutely is, and some people just really love the Chimayo flavor, other people really love the Big Jim flavor, so it's really personal preference, maybe what you've grown up on or just what you've, learned to love.
Sure. And then, we'll have to mention there's the fight, the little bit of a bragging rights between Colorado where they found that they can grow green chili as well. But
And I have, friends, collaborators up in Colorado, I think they're wonderful, but yeah, it's really they grow so little chili compared to what we have in New Mexico, it's a very uneven battle.
yeah, we still like to have that bragging rights that we're the chili capital of the
A
world, right?
Absolutely, and what they grow in Colorado is really similar to their own land race, kinda like we have our Chimayo, they have their, Moscow chili, and, it's good, it forms a niche there for, Colorado, but yeah, we blow them away.
Well, and it's interesting. I mean, if you have the heat, it's not just the southern part of the state. You found that there's those pockets of heat within New Mexico. You can grow them in many different areas of the state.
Absolutely, and one thing very interesting about some of these northern New Mexico land races is they tend to have smaller fruit, but really quick maturity. The plants burst out of the ground, and they put on red fruit much sooner than our very large fruited varieties that we grow in the South.
Well, and I know something common. People wonder why chili can be come off so much earlier in the southern part of the state than other parts. Can you address that? The reason behind it?
Well, I guess it's warm enough there, so growers can plant their seed really early.
Hmm.
So there's always that debate about do you need to wait till the soil really warms up like you would with most warm season vegetables. And with chili, the seed really maintains its integrity in moist soil for a very long time. So the seed will sit there, and if you have a quick period of a few warm days, it'll start germinating, putting down that taproot. So as soon as it warms up, then those plants just they already have their roots established, they just burst out of the ground and mature very quickly. A lot of the growers will also start by transplants down there, which really gives them a great boost so they can easily get their second harvest, which
Hmm.
most green chili growers will get at least 2 picks off of the same plants.
Right? Because is this the right terminology? Chili peppers are indeterminate.
So, yes, so indeterminate means that they're going to keep setting fruit. Chili's interesting, and in working with mechanical harvest aspects, originally that was something I really thought was important, that we need to get a very determinate plant. So as opposed to indeterminate that keeps setting fruit, a determinate plant is going to set all its fruit in a relatively short period of time, and then they're done. What we find with chili, most of the New Mexico New Mex green chili varieties are quite determinate. It's more like okra, and then if you strip the fruit off,
Right.
they're going to quickly put on a second set. So they behave more like determinate plants than continuing to give you vines or setting a few fruit throughout the season.
What has made it where the mechanization has not been something that could happen?
So a couple
Okay,
things. So with red chili, and this wasn't the case when I first started at New Mexico State University. The red chili and green chili were all being hand
right.
harvested, but there's a lot of research and development that went into it. And with red chili, the vast majority of the crop is dried,
Mhm.
ground into flakes or powder, so they can take a beating a bit. It's all going to be ground up. It doesn't matter if the fruit are damaged. With green chili, if you're selling a high quality green chili,
Mhm.
people are going to want to make rellenos out of it. You really want those fruit intact. And most of the harvesters we looked at really beat them up and damaged them, cut them, broke them. And so that was a yield loss, it was a quality loss. So that was one of the problems. The other problem is most of the green chili in the state actually goes for processing, probably about 80% of it. And they actually have to have the pedicels or the stems removed, this part.
Okay.
And so out in the field, hand crews would pop these pedicels off because if the pedicels or stems here get into the processing flow, it becomes a quality and safety concern. And as a quality control supervisor back in the day, I read so many letters to complain about people saying, "Why is there a fish hook in my green chili or fish hook in my salsa?" And so we had two issues here. We needed to be able to gently pick the fruit so we wouldn't damage them. We wanted to pick most of the fruit, of course, in the field to keep the yields up. But then mechanical desteming is also something we really needed for about 80% of the crop that's going to go to the processing plants.
And part of that, if the determinate plant, if they're ready all at once, the maturity level's there. I know I've tried to roast chili that weren't mature, and they just don't peel as well.
Yeah.
So I'm guessing you want that same size, like all your fruit to be the same size to be that will harvest better.
As much as possible, yeah. If the fruit are immature, they're just going to disintegrate. You don't get anything. They're hard to peel, and you don't get
Mhm.
any meat out of them. And so, yeah,
I've
that's a
heard this
concern.
referred to as the helix. Is that another
The,
terminology?
the helix, so
Eh,
the helix, we have helix.
no?
Helix is the picking head we use for
Okay.
the fruit. I haven't
Okay,
heard of
but you
that,
called
but
it
a
a
pedicel,
pedestal,
yeah,
okay.
pedicel or peduncle, yeah.
And what are the varieties that we have here in front of us today?
Okay, so I think, if I recall correctly, I know this one over here is New Mex Odyssey. It was a very recent release from New Mexico State University. It's,
That you're very involved.
I
Kudos to you.
thank
They're a wonderful chili.
thank
Yeah.
you. Yes, I actually, my program, I released these a few years back. And this was the first New Mexico green chili type that was developed specifically for mechanical harvest efficiency. So it just picks really well with limited damage. It's a very tasty, mild chili. So that's another thing. Even though we know chilies, we love our hot chili. Many people love really, really hot chili, but the vast majority of people who eat chili, or if they're just being introduced to chili, they need to start out mild. And Odyssey is a really nice mod, about 300 to 400 Scoville heat units.
Okay, and then we move up, I believe this is, the Big Jim?
Yeah, so Big Jim, this was released, another product of New Mexico State University's breeding efforts. It was Roy Nakayama who was actually working with a grower in Hatch, who he was Jim, so it was named for him. But Jim Lytle came to Roy Nakayama, New Mexico State University, and said, our seed is a little bit diverse here. We want something that's more stable, predictable, kind of like what Fabian
Mhm.
Garcia did back in the day. So they worked with him and developed this very tasty, very large fruited variety. And actually, it still holds the Guinness Book of World Records as the
Really.
longest
I
chili.
have seen them that go from your wrist up to your elbow, and
Yes,
the meat on them is really nice. And
absolutely.
then you move up to Sandia,
So
right?
Sandia, yes, another product from New Mexico State University. It was Roy Harper released this one, and this is just a nice, great flavor. Many people really love the flavor of Sandia, but it's hotter.
Okay.
So it's going to be more about 5,000 Scoville heat units. I should say, so chili varies a lot. As I talked about, environmental conditions will change it. So it's about 2,000 to 5,000, a real hot one.
And then the Lumbre.
Lumbre. So this is the one for people who have well-honed taste buds, who just want that really,
Or
really
well
hot,
toasted off
really
taste buds.
toasted. So yeah, so Lumbre was actually released by a breeder in Hatch, and it's very, very hot. So, and you see, very often we do see the hotter varieties have smaller fruit. I'm
Mhm.
often asked, well, can you tell by looking at a fruit how hot it is? And to some degree, that's a little bit true that a smaller fruit might be, or more pointy fruit might be hotter. But I always say crazy chili breeders have really mixed up the genetics enough that's not a complete sure thing.
Of being able to look at and
Yes.
different like you noticed on the Big Jim, the color is a lot lighter than some of the other of the greens, but different things on that. Um, so let's go into some of the, things that are myths. Is ch People know hatch. They know that word hatch
Mhm,
chili versus New Mexico chili.
mhm.
Is there a variety of hatch chili?
No. There's no such thing as a hatch chili, which is kind of a fun fact most people aren't aware of. And, really what a hatch chili is any n long green, New Mexico green type variety that's grown in the hatch area. And having said that, I know there's products that are labeled with a hatched
Mhm.
label, and the company that owns the hatch label is not even from New Mexico. So if you see a hatch label, it does not necessarily mean that it was New Mexico chili.
So
That's
it's not like the names we gave, those are varieties. Hatch is the region that it's raised,
Yes,
correct?
yes, but Hatch is an amazing growing area for
Mhm.
chili. Many excellent growers still grow their crop there, but we grow great New Mexico type chili in other parts of New Mexico as
Right.
well.
I think it's just synonymous, kinda like a copy machine is a Xerox or
Yes.
something like that. It's become very, very,
Yeah.
put together.
And you can't and I have to say they did done a great marketing job
They
when
have.
when they started the Hatch Chili Festival that they have every, Labor Day weekend. It draws visitors from throughout the world that come to Hatch for their pilgrimage to, get their chili fix.
Well, let's we're kinda winding down on time, but there's some of these others that people I always wanna know. A lot of people think that the heat come from the seed.
Yeah, and that's absolutely not true.
So that's a
So the chili heat, the capsaicin chemicals that create the heat feeling,
mhm,
the bite when we eat them, actually are produced on the veins or vesicles. So if you open up a chili and you see a very pronounced yellow vein, that usually indicates a hotter
okay.
chili. So the seeds themselves do not contain any capsaicins, but since they're actually being produced right on the veins, you may get some of the chemical on the
Right. Oh,
surface.
I'm sure. I'm sure, and because most of your veins are higher up towards that stem,
Exactly,
that's part of
yes.
it. Okay, red and green, are they from different plants?
That's something when I have, uninformed people out into my field for the first time, it's something they're just amazed, like, "Wow, Dr. Walker, look, you've developed green chili and red chili growing in the same plants," and they're just astounded. So, actually, just the green chili is a, physiologically immature fruit. So, with most of the New Mexico green chili, not all, some have other, mature colors, but usually the red is the physiologically mature color, the green is the physiologically immature fruit. So seed in a green fruit will typically give you very poor or no germination. The fruit have to turn over to red or the final mature color before the seed is viable.
So if it's a hot green, it's going to be a hot red.
Yes, yeah,
But is does the sugar content increase as it ripens and matures? Is that
yeah,
the difference in the
yes,
taste?
yes, absolutely. So as the fruits ripen, they start developing sugars that give you that more complex, sweeter taste in red. And then the green chili loses its chlorophyll, and so green chili is a great source of vitamin C, which we lose as they ripen to red, and then the red chili is a great source of, vitamin A or carotenoid compounds.
Well, and you touched on this. Chili is a vegetable or a fruit?
So botanically, it's a fruit. So it's a botanically, they're classified as fruit, but because of the way we use them typically, the USDA has commonly referred to them as a vegetable.
But there's many vegetables that are actually fruits.
Oh, yeah, yeah, like
So
well, tomatoes are another one. I was just talking to a group about how the only reason we call tomatoes a vegetable is because of a Supreme Court ruling on a tariff dispute many, many years ago. So chili, closely related to tomatoes, I guess, has kinda got lumped into the same
that
same
same
deal.
genre.
Yes.
What is something that what is one fact that you found surprises people the most about chili?
Besides the ones we already talked about, the chili seeds are not pungent. There is no hatch chili, the green and red on the same plant. I guess probably the amazing nutritional quality of them. Like one green chili has as much vitamin C as six oranges.
Wow.
And we always think, oh, oranges are so full of vitamin C. Well, by eating our green chili fix as a New Mexican, we are, yeah, doing much better than a glass of orange juice every morning.
and much less on calories.
Yes.
So
So it truly is a very, healthful addiction for us to
maybe
have.
that's the reason you always want a big bowl of green chili stew when you're sick. Maybe it's all that vitamin C that kinda helps out.
Absolutely.
Well, I know there's still lots of, issues and things facing the chili industry, but you're how many years of work in this?
Oh, goodness. So my whole adult life, if you consider my time in the processing world,
And you're only 39. So,
Yes, yes.
just like me.
That's right. No, I've been working so I've been at the university now 27 years working in that, and I was in industry, so yeah, I more than 40 years now.
Well, Stephanie, it's always I always learn things from you. It's a pleasure, and thank you for bringing us such a wonderful crop that not only New Mexicans, but all across the world enjoy.
Oh, thank you, Evelyn. It's my pleasure.
Pleasure to have you here. And for all of you watching today, thank you, and we will catch you next time. Cheers.